In order to restore trust, you need to open the books and show everything that's been wrong, everything that's been done wrong. You do. That's the only way to earn trust back, is open up the books. And he said, let's open up the books and figure out exactly what happened in 2020 with the Hunter Biden story. I mean, Twitter censored the New York Post's Twitter account. The New York Post, one of the oldest publications in the country, the Twitter just said, oh, you can't have it anymore. Just cut them off. They cut people off from sharing it privately. It's an amazing bit of censorship. And Elon Musk decided to give a journalist by the name of Matt Taibbi the Twitter files, Twitter emails, all this stuff he now owns internally. Okay? So we know Twitter censored all this stuff. We know Twitter censored the story, censored anyone who tried to share the story. And that's a big deal. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to dismiss that as being a big deal. The federal government working with Twitter, or even just the Democrat campaign, because it was Joe Biden's campaign at the time, working with Twitter to censor out information that's damaging to Joe Biden on a platform where people get and share their news, it is a big deal. But I will argue this, contrary to probably everything you've heard and seen today, it is not the biggest deal of this story, not by a mile. Yes, Twitter matters. Yes, Twitter's important. Yes, it's how people get and share information. All that's important. And yes, it's bad that they work with Democrats because they're all staffed by Democrats. It's not nearly as important as the malfeasance at the FBI and the FBI's involvement in it. I actually saw the GOP today is already threatening out there they're going to hold hearings. We're going to have hearings and everyone at Twitter is going to be brought in. Okay. GOP, how many people at Twitter can have me arrested for crimes they framed me for, cost me my career, my family, and throw me in a dark hole for the next 30 years? How many people at Twitter have that power? Let me give it away for you. 0 people at Twitter have that power. Even Elon Musk doesn't possess that power. However, many, many people at the Federal Bureau of Investigation do very much have that power, and there's every indication that that is exactly what they want. I don't need Twitter hearings. I need FBI hearings. Yoel Roth used to work for Twitter, and this is what he said, quote, I was told in the meetings, these are 2020 meetings leading up to the election, by the way, I was told in these meetings that the intelligence community expected that individuals associated with political campaigns would be subject to hacking attacks, and the material obtained through those hacking attacks would likely be disseminated over social media, including Twitter. I also learned in these meetings there were rumors that a hack and leak operation would involve Hunter Biden. Okay, let's pause here for a moment. The intelligence community approached Twitter and told them that there was a Hunter Biden story coming, and they told them it would be a hack and leak story, even though it was not hacked, it was nothing like that at all. They told them it was coming. And I want to make sure you do understand this, because you do remember, this got a bunch of play. We played it on this show. You remember when Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook went on Joe Rogan and said, yeah, the FBI approached us.
Is the FBI, I think, basically came to us, some folks on our team, and was like, hey, just so you know, like, you should be on high alert. We thought that there was a lot of Russian propaganda in the 2016 election. We have it on notice that basically there's about to be some kind of dump of that's similar to that. So just be vigilant.
You heard that. But what you may have missed from Yoel Roth of Twitter or Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook was this very, very, very important point. The FBI approached Facebook and Twitter and obviously told them to censor the Hunter Biden story. That alone would be bad enough because it appears that the Federal Bureau of Investigation now works for the Democrats and against Republicans. But wait, it's actually much, much worse. Remember, Miranda Devine joined us, and she's going to join us again here in a few. Miranda Devine joined us and informed us the FBI approached Facebook and now apparently Twitter before the story came out and told them it was going to come out. Which means not only is the FBI working on behalf of Joe Biden and the Democratic Party and against Republicans, the FBI is apparently collecting so much information on American citizens that they can find out a damaging story for Democrats is coming ahead of time, and then they will take the steps necessary to make sure the story never sees the light of day. I don't want to hear another word about Twitter employees being called in front of a Republican Congress. I don't give a crap about a bunch of communists who work at Twitter. I want to know who at the Federal Bureau of Investigation is going to spend the rest of his or her life in prison for taking his position of power at the FBI and abusing the American people with it. I don't want hearings. I don't want this. I don't want that. I want to know when the trial date is set for the people at the FBI who think that it's their duty to politic on behalf of Democrats. Not hearings, not resignations, not he's getting fired. I want to know a trial date. When's the trial date for James Baker? Does that name sound familiar? Oh, it should. He's the one who lied on a FISA warrant to get permission to spy on Trump. That alone should have put James Baker in federal prison until the day they bury him in the ground. That alone. But wait, there's more. He was Twitter's deputy general counsel at the time. Here's what he said. I support the conclusion that we need more facts to assess whether the materials were hacked. At this stage, however, it's reasonable for us to assume that they may have been, and caution is warranted. There are some facts that indicate the materials may have been hacked, yada, yada, yada. When is James Baker going to prison? That's what I want to know. I don't care about Twitter hearings, or we're going to haul this Twitter employee in front. I want to know when James Baker goes away for the rest of his life. I want to know when the more than 50 former intelligence officials, high-ranking ones in the United States of America, immediately and publicly came out and told every media outlet out there that this was Russian disinformation. Do we have an intelligence community that now works only on behalf of the Democratic Party and against Republicans? And if the answer to that question is yes, and there is every indication that the answer to that question is yes, guess what? There is nothing more important happening within the borders of the United States of America that ends the United States of America unless that problem is fixed. So once again, I need to stress this. I don't give a crap about Twitter employees. I care about the checka. It is important when I talk about the military and how the military is rotting away underneath us. It's important that you do understand what I see. Now, you may not see it this way, but this is very much what I see. Yes, they're destroying the military on purpose. The communists are destroying the military on purpose as far as it being a foreign fighting force. A foreign fighting force. You're worried about a military that can take on China. That's what you want, right? Can we take on China if someone hurts us? Can we take on Russia? Can we meet the threats that are given to us in this world? That's what you're worried about. That's what I'm worried about. Understand that the communists don't think in those terms. The American communists, they're not interested in that at all. That's why they cozy up to our enemies all the time. They're not worried about meeting some foreign adversary because they don't consider foreign adversaries to really be the bad guys. They consider you to be the bad guy. So yes, they're destroying the military as a foreign fighting force, but they're not destroying the military in their mind. In their mind, they're building a military. They're building a military for a purpose. It's just not the purpose you want. They're very much building a military to fight what they consider to be the greatest threat, and a military that's willing to fight the greatest threat. Now, who do you think they think the biggest threat is? Now, that's probably a good segue into the Air Force. This is normally a story we feel great about. They have released a new stealth bomber, the B-29 Raider, the first brand new bomber like this since the Cold War. Apparently they're buying 100 of them. They cost about $700 million a piece. Well, that's really fantastic news unless you figure out that bomber is as likely to fly over Oklahoma as it is over China. Now that gets a little bit darker, doesn't it? It's just getting a little too tinfoil on your head. If you're sitting there right now saying, Jesse, stop being so ridiculous. This is over the top. No one would use the military to fight their own citizens. I would simply invite you to go open, a history book and see what communists have done consistently throughout history. Consistently, time and time and time again. Please don't be naive. Oh, they would never. Come on now, grow up. This is the real world. How do you convince, I know you're already there. So right, it's just you and me talking here, but how do you convince your neighbor that whoever is being promoted on the news not only isn't as good as the news says he is, he's actually probably a horrific villain, and the more they promote him, the worse he is? How do you wake enough Americans up to that reality? But maybe I'm wrong. And this is what I mean by maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Americans really are waking up, and they're waking up slowly, slower than you would like, slower than I would like, but they are waking up. Newest media trust numbers come out, all-time low. 61% of Americans have no trust in the big traditional media sources, CBS, Washington Post, New York Times, the big ones. 61%. So let's pause here for a moment. If you're in the American media and you're watching your power slip away, because the only reason you have any power as someone in the media is people's trust. I don't think I have any power, but if you consider me to have any power at all, what actually gives me that power? Is it sitting down and doing a television show for you every night? No. The power comes from a bunch of you watching and trusting what you hear here, trusting what you see, trusting that it's real. That's where the power comes from. If you watch the show and I'm just lying to you every single night for 1 hour here on the First TV, then I lose all power because you're now disregarding me as some ridiculous clown, right? The power is the trust. The trust is the power. That's the way I want to say that. The trust is the power. So if you're the media and people are getting less and less trust in you, what's the solution? Well, that's what's funny about how this horrible corruption works and how late-stage republics act and how communists act. If you wanted my trust, let's say you lost my trust. Maybe I loaned you $100 and you went and spent it at Red Lobster instead of going to buy food for sick kids like you said you were going to. Okay, now I don't trust you anymore. You would understand that you need to get my trust back and that you would have to earn that trust back. Hey, Jesse, let me do something for you. Let me extend a hand. Let me pay you back with interest for that because I want to earn your trust. That's what you would do because you're a logical thinker. That's how you think about things. But late-stage republics do not act that way. This is amazing, but it is true. As the American media watches its power evaporate, as the trust evaporates, there's not a single person, not a single executive, producer, host, there's not a single person in the media out there right now who's having a heart-to-heart meeting, all hands on deck, staff meeting. Not a single one's having a meeting right now and saying to themselves, hey guys, we got to earn some trust back. Look, we have violated people's trust and we got to earn it back. None of them. It wouldn't even cross their minds. It's not how late-stage republics work. Instead, they're simply going to try to insulate themselves from losing what they have as trust goes away. Well, how do you do that? Well, there's no better way to do that than the government. If you were a piece of trash communist in the legacy media and you're watching your trust and power evaporate, you could try to earn it back, or you could just go lobby to add, what is it called again? The Journalism Competition and Preservation Act, the JCPA is what they shorten it up. You could just lobby to have that rolled into the Defense Authorization Bill. They are going to roll in a massive media handout, and they're going to roll it into a bill that's all about national defense. And reportedly, according to Breitbart, as you just saw, they are going to do it with the approval of one Mitch McConnell. You see, this is the problem. Harmeet, let's go to Arizona because I know you were actually on the ground in Arizona. A lot of people talk about it. You were actually there. I know Carrie Lake herself has shown her public appreciation for what you did there. Tell people who are confused right now what happened, what's happening in Arizona, what was bad, what was good, what happened?
Let's step back to the 2020 election. Arizona, particularly Maricopa County, where the bulk of the population is there, made a lot of mistakes with respect to, pens and ballots and machines and all of that. I'm not saying, like some people have, that, these machines are being programmed to switch votes from one side to the other. I think that would be a conspiracy that would be hard to keep under wraps. But Voter confidence is impacted when they see that they're putting their ballots into a machine that can't read them because some poorly trained election worker did not set the printer settings correctly on the printer. Or worse, which is what happened in 2022, they did not test those machines with ballots printed on site. Now, I don't know how it is where the viewers live, but in Arizona, they got what's called a vote center system now in Maricopa County. So you can actually go anywhere in the county, no matter where you live, and get a ballot printed that lists your local stuff. Now, that requires that the printers work correctly. If they don't work correctly, if the reader can't read what the printer says, then you have chaos. You have long lines. You have overflowing boxes of ballots. You have mistakes like happened in Maricopa County, where it appears in a couple of locations. They mixed up ballots that have been counted and not counted, and they had to go do it again, segregate it, cover it up. All of those things happen there. The problem is that if you haven't laid the groundwork before an election to litigate, to make sure that these people are under a consent decree or a court order so that they have to do certain things the right way, then there's little that you can do. Almost no court in the country is going to step in and allow a do-over after Election Day. That's extremely rare. So I documented all of that happened there. I had 6 attorneys at my firm working after the fact to take declarations and contact 100 witnesses and do our best to make sure that we made a track record. I think what's going to happen, Carrie has a lot of other lawyers on the ground. I'm, giving them information, and she's working directly with them, and also, continuing to get advice from me. There is litigation ongoing with Abe Hamadeh for Attorney General. He's within 500 or so votes, and so there needs to be a recount effort over there, supervised by lawyers. And I think what we need to do is take all of this information and make sure that we clean up Maricopa County. There's a couple other problem counties as well, but you cannot wait until Election Day and start complaining about it then. You really have to lay the groundwork in advance. So when I hear, for example, that the RNC is sort of going to step back from election integrity for now because of funding or what have you, I heard that from a DC insider, a top election lawyer. That really concerns me because there is no off day for the Democrats. Mark Elias doesn't take off for Christmas and, a month and party. He's filing lawsuits around the clock. We have to be doing the same. We are nowhere near matching them on that. And so that would be a top priority for me if I were elected chair of the RNC. Donor confidence, which is necessary for the money needed to hire the good lawyers who will fight around the clock.
Don't miss Jesse Kelly Breaks History, Che Guevara, the latest episode of a new series available now exclusively for First TV supporters. Visit the First TV app or thefirsttv.com to subscribe and start watching today.